Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Are you ready? Hey everybody, it's Jeff. Banner day here for news, I'll tell you that. Christ, all kinds of shit going on today. It's like every Monday there's a plethora of crap to look at. Starting with this first video I have from Mike Polpak. Trump gets bitch slapped by a federal judge, Beryl Howell, and long overdue. So let's take a look at that here, and we'll discuss that on the other side.
Oh, listen. When she puts things in historical context, people listen. When she's the first federal judge to reach out and wrap the knuckles of law firms who settled with Donald Trump, who bent the knee, who violated their professional ethics. And she does it in such an artful and powerful way in her new 101-page decision against the Trump administration, where she not only holds up and lauds firms like Perkins Coie and Jenner and Block and others in their fight against the Trump administration, but at the same time, she takes down a notch or two as the first federal judge has to what we watch, which is over a dozen different law firms give Donald Trump $1 billion and a talking point by settling with him to avoid being put on a blacklist or a watch list. Not Perkins Coie, not Jenner and Block, and not the rest. And the judge, in her order, and I'm going to read it to you, in her order, spent time putting this in historical context about what John Adams did, about what Alexander de Tocqueville observed about the American democracy, and the role of the independent bar, the independent lawyer, as a safeguard, as a firewall against the excesses of democracy. At the same time, naming names about the law firms who in history will now be enshrined that they capitulated to Donald Trump instead of bringing the cases to federal judges the way they should have. And Beryl Howell, who used to be the chief judge of the D.C. Circuit, or D.C. District Court, is the right judge to do it. And you're at the right time in the right place. You're on Midas Touch and on Legal AF with Michael Popak. Let me dive into Beryl Howell. How many hot takes have we done over the last several years about Beryl Howell and her courage? She's the judge that took down Donald Trump. She's the one that declared that he, more likely than not, committed crimes before anybody and stripped him of his attorney-client privilege along with his attorneys. She presided over all of the grand juries, at least 2/3 of them, about the Jan 6th insurrectionists and Donald Trump and the case in front of Judge Chutkan for election interference. She's the one that took down Rudy Giuliani and presided over the $158 million defamation judgment because he kept pushing the big lie that Donald Trump won when he lost and defamed to Fulton County election workers as a result. That Beryl Howell, the one who's been on the list for Donald Trump and lives inside of Donald Trump's brain. And this case has been assigned to her, the case brought by Perkins Coie, to make sure they're not destroyed by Donald Trump as a law firm because he doesn't like the fact that some prior partners were against him and his administration in the form of Mark Elias and Michael Sussman and others. And so he violated, as the judge just ruled in the 101 pages, violated their First Amendment right, the Fifth and Sixth Amendment rights of their clients, who have the right to counsel of their choice and not to have to say, well, I can't use Perkins Coie or fill in the blank because Donald Trump has them on the crap list and he won't let them into federal buildings and he won't give them a security clearance and he won't do business with them. I got to hire another firm. That interferes with the sacrosanct relationship between a client and a lawyer. Beryl Howell knows it. Now, let me read to you what, in the beginning, the first 4 pages is not her order is reflected in an order, but this is the memorandum opinion. And in the memorandum opinion, She spends a considerable amount of time in the very first 5 or 6 paragraphs talking about the history of America, the role of an independent bar, not just an independent bench. You need the lawyers to be independent. This is what the government is founded on. She cited to John Adams representing 8 British officers in the Boston Massacre, a very unpopular position to take and to represent those clients at the founding of our country. But he felt he had to do it, even though he lost half of his practice, apparently as a result of it, because in our free and fair society, the foundation of it is an independent judiciary and an independent bar and lawyers. She then cited to Alexander de Tocqueville, who traveled around America in the 1830s, and he observed that it was lawyers in America that serve the most important role to protect democracy from its excesses, to be the firewall, to protect the people. Independent lawyers. And she, the judge, then went on in footnote 3 of her decision, which I don't want it to get lost to history. That's why I want to talk about it. She called out these other law firms. She said, you bring to federal judges issues about whether you think your First Amendment, Fifth Amendment, Sixth Amendment, 14th Amendment, due process, equal protection rights have been violated as a law firm, especially a law firm. You come to federal courts. You get your day in court. We will protect you, but we can't protect you if you enter into a temporary Band-Aid fix, bow your head, and genuflect to Donald Trump, who now declared himself to be the Pope. He just posted a photo of Pope Trump to insult all the world's Catholics and religious leaders. It's one thing to call yourself a king. It's another thing to cross the line while Pope Francis isn't even cold in the grave and call yourself Pope Trump. We'll leave that for a moment. And she said, you come to me, and those that didn't come to me, you clients of those law firms that gave $1 billion of tribute to Donald Trump. Think about the lawyers you're with, because they have compromised their ethics, and you have to think about whether they're going to commit to you and give you the zealous advocacy that's required under the professional rules of conduct and responsibility, or whether they're going to be a little gun shy and serve 2 bosses, which you can't, and compromise your position as a client because they're worried, well, one eye on the Trump administration. Don't use those law firms is what she's basically saying. And later, to support her decision, to support Perkins Coie and enter a summary judgment permanent injunction, she says, and let me just show you why their decision about retaliation and retribution is right and its impact on First Amendment expression and Fifth and Sixth Amendment right to counsel. Because look at all the other firms that capitulated. And then she named names, Paul Weiss, Skadden Arps, where I used to work, and other firms. She used them as an example, their cowardliness and cowardice as an example. Let me read to you from Beryl Howell. And then I'm going to show you a clip of Beryl Howell in action at a speech, because we don't often get to see judges. You know, their court proceedings are not recorded or not on video or audio, but I want you to hear from her directly so you know what I'm talking about. But let me read to you first from the footnote. Footnote 3. This message has been heard and heeded by some targeted law firms. The message to chill, to restrain, to don't hire people that you want to hire, to don't, because it violates DEI, to don't take on client causes the way you want to. She says it has been by the targeted firms as reflected in their choice after reportedly direct dealings with the current White House to agree to demand terms, perhaps viewing this choice as the best alternative for their clients' employees. In other words, to give free legal service, $50 million, $100 million, $150 million in some cases. Yet, she says, some clients may harbor reservations about the implications of such deals for their vigorous and zealous representation to which they are entitled. This is a warning to the clients direct from the federal judge, from ethically responsible counsel, since at least the publicized deal terms appear only to forestall rather than eliminate the threat of being targeted by the executive order. In other words, they're not out of the woods. They got the sword of Damocles hanging over their head. And if you're a client of their firm, you got to think, are they representing me? Or are they trying to avoid future ire and being on the wrong end of Donald Trump and his administration? She then says, as other former and current general counsels caution in a brief filed with the court, a fundamental premise of the rule of law is that when parties challenge the government, their lawyers oppose the designated representative of the state, and the system assumes that the adversarial testing will ultimately advance the public interest. Adversarial process, 2 sides fighting zealously against each other will lead to justice. But how do you do that when one side's been compromised? Only when lawyers, she says at the bottom of the footnote on page 3, only when lawyers make the choice to challenge rather than back down when confronted with government action raising non-trivial constitutional issues can a case be brought to a court for judicial review on the legal merits. Like, what are you thinking? Law firms that settle, bring it to the courts. We'll support an independent bench. We got 4 other cases out there, and the lawyers are all, and the judges are all watching. Judge Ali Khan, Judge Bates, Judge Leon, they're all about to issue their own orders. They're going to be mimicking. They should just say, see attached, me too opinion, see Beryl Howell. They shouldn't even write another opinion. They should just adopt this one. She continues, only when lawyers make that choice and bring it to ours. And then she lauds and compliments and pats on the back Perkins Coie and their law firm, because there's law firms that now have to step forward to protect law firms. I mean, Abby Lowell, Hunter Biden's lawyer, Jared Kushner's lawyer, represented the House of Representatives, go-to white-collar lawyer, Clinton investigations, those kind of things. Represented John Edwards, Senator Menendez. He just formed a new firm. He left Winston and Strawn. I don't know the terms. I'm going to try to get him for an interview. He left Winston and Strawn, brought with him the Skadden Arps associate who quit rather than continue to work at my old law firm, Skadden Arps, where I started my career. I hope I would have had the courage that she has. She's now joined Abby Lowell's firm as his first associate or his partner or whatever it's going to be. And I compliment that. And his sole focus of his law firm is to step in and defend people against politicized attacks and investigations, including he's now representing, get this, Attorney General of New York, Letitia James, who was just interviewed by Ben Meiselas here on the Midas Touch Network, because she has a politicized, weaponized investigation against her brought by the Department of Justice and Pam Bondi for some BS mortgage fraud allegation to try to clip her wings. Not going to happen, and not with Abby Lowell. But I continue. She compliments on Judge Howell on, she says, as was done in this case properly by plaintiff Perkins Coie and their counsel, Williams and Connolly, and the lawyers, firms, organizations, and individuals who submitted amicus briefs. There are 500 law firms that submitted briefs in support of Perkins Coie. There's 350 federal judges who did the exact same thing. She quotes from one of the amicus briefs. She says, our judicial system is under serious threat when determining whether to file a brief could be a career-ending decision. But when lawyers are apprehensive about retribution simply for filing a brief adverse to the government, there is no other choice but to do so. You must oppose at that point. And then later in the brief, in the opinion, on pages 60 and 61, she says, let's use the examples to prove this case, why it's so important that I issue this injunction. Look what Paul Weiss did. Look what Skadden Arps did. Look what Wilkie Farr and Gallagher did. It's the first federal judge. It's the first federal judge to rebuke those law firms. And I'm proud of her and proud of being a part of that same profession. Because facts matter. In fact, here's a clip of Beryl Howell just last year talking about facts matter. I want you to hear from the judge herself, since we don't have clips from the actual oral arguments. And then if you want to have more information, come over to the Legal AF Substack, because right now I've got up there posted this 101-page decision and her order. So you can go to the Substack, Legal AF Substack, support us there, subscribe there, and get this content that you're looking for. Let's run the clip of Beryl Howell.
Having a very surprising and downright troubling moment in this country when the very importance of facts is dismissed or ignored. That's a very risky business for all of us and our democracy. The historian Heather Cox Richardson, whose book I've been reading, explains in her new book, which is a bestseller, so many of you may have already read it, Democracy Awakening, that burying facts with false history telling is one of the keys to the rise of authoritarianism. As she bluntly puts it, big lies are springboards for authoritarians. She cautions in her book's opening line, it's the very first line, America is at a crossroads, teetering on the brink of authoritarianism. And she echoes this thought in her closing line, that we are at a time of testing, and how it comes out resting, as it always has, is in our own hands. In between those 2 points, in the first line and the last, Her book focuses on historical facts to set the record straight about recreated and imagined conspiratorial retellings of our country's history, recent and long ago. My DC judicial colleagues and I regularly see the impact of big lies at the sentencing of hundreds of individuals who have been convicted for offense conduct on January 6, 2021, when they disrupted the certification of the 2020 presidential election at the U.S. Capitol. As district court judges, we are all about the facts.
Beryl Howell. She's speaking to history. She's speaking to you and me. She's speaking to the Trump administration. She's warning the law profession, all in a 101-page decision, and we're all here for it. You're here on Midas Touch Network. Hit the subscribe button. Come on over to Legal AF, the YouTube channel. We're going to hit 700,000 subscribers by next week with your help. I'm doing it in collaboration with the brothers on the Midas Touch Network. We have a dozen contributors. We just brought on as our house ethics, or house historians, if you will, Sidney Blumenthal, famous journalist, historian, reporter, presidential advisor to the Clintons, and Sid Walentz from Princeton University. They're going to be doing regular hot takes as court of history, which is the highest court above the Supreme Court in their view, giving you historical references as to why the Trump administration is full of crap. I'm Michael Popak. Hopefully you don't think I am. And I'm on Midas Touch Network.
You know, these bend-the-knee law firms that have been kowtowing to Trump, they ought to lose their fucking license. You know, they're these law firms that should just lose their license. I mean, because look, if all they're going to do is kiss Trump's ring, then what good are they? You know, really, what the fuck good are they? And you know, it seems to me, and you know, and I don't want this to sound sexist, okay? Because I think, you know, I get a point here. It seems to me that women seem to have more guts, more balls than the men out there for speaking out against Trump. Why is that? Is it because, you know, of the way Trump landed his ass into the political scene by, you know, promising a ban on all abortions, and this is still blowback from that? I mean, it could possibly be that this is why more women are ready to go to war with Trump than the men are. And, you know, certainly, you know, AOC is another one that basically, you know, feels that way. But it's really interesting. The men are very quiet, you know, and it's very aggravating that that only the women are going, because it doesn't, it just, when it's only women going after Trump, people can dismiss it as, oh, well, women are just emotional. You know what I'm saying? They use that old trope. Okay, but when men do it, you know, people pay more attention to it. So, you know, like I wonder how many people even know about what this judge had said here, Beryl Howell. I wonder if anyone outside of this video here even knows it, because whenever women get mad and upset at Trump, you know, it just seems to, you know, just get dropped. Like, who cares what women think? And they just go to to a guy that might say something, which is hardly ever, you know. But that is the scary part of it all, is that, you know, how men are really not saying a whole lot here, and the ones that are don't seem to want to really take the hardcore stand against him. You know, like Jeffries there, what his fucking name is there, Hakeem Jeffries. You know, whenever he says anything about Trump, it's usually a very sugar-coated thing to say. You know, he doesn't really take a hard line against this guy, so you have to wonder. But, you know, Congress really needs to do its fucking job. And what I mean by that is they need to do their job so Trump can't do his. Which, what I'm getting at is impeach, impeach, impeach. How many fucking times are people going to have to keep echoing that until somebody hears it? You know, what are we going to do? We got to hire an airplane to smoke right the fucking word impeach over the fucking White House? I mean, what the hell are we got to do? How many more crimes? How many more things does he have to do? How many more rules does he have to break? How many more laws does he have to bend or break? You know, how many fucking things does he have to do before people understand that, hey, your president is corrupt, he has to be impeached? Okay? He's done more damage to this country than any fucking president in American history. Any. Okay? Any fucking president. You name it. No, he wasn't as bad as Trump. And just 4 months, 4 goddamn months, he's put this country's economy on its ass. On its fucking ass. So don't tell me presidents don't have impact on the economy. They certainly do. Okay? And Trump made a goddamn point of making it known to everyone in this country that he will make an impact on the economy on day one. And he said through his fucking 2-year campaign for a second term that he was going to implement tariffs. And in all them 2 years, nobody who was paying attention to anything he said even bothered to look up the word tariff to even understand what that meant. It was only after the fact, when Google exploded, when people started looking up the word tariff to find out what the fuck is a tariff. Okay? Only after. You know, talk about stupid. It's like waking up and going to school naked and then finding out, oh shit, I should have put my clothes on. You know, hey, it's too fucking late. Everybody sees you, sees what you look like, so now they're gonna laugh. But you know, the courts, whatever the courts say, whatever Beryl Howell says, it won't matter to Trump. The only thing that's gonna matter to him and really get the stick shoved up his ass is when they say impeach. We're going to impeach you. That's when he'll wake up and fucking take notice of the courts in this country. And that's why I'm saying, yes, there's like 25, 30 goddamn lawsuits against the federal government right now from over 22 states in this country. Okay, a whole bunch of goddamn lawsuits against Trump for various executive orders that he signed. And so now, you know, we have this whole situation where the courts are all screaming and doing things, and Trump doesn't seem to even care. What's he doing? He's doing things even worse. I showed you a video of what he's doing out in California. He's out there terrorizing the citizens in California, and I can't remember the town, but it's in Southern California, marching goddamn tanks up and down the fucking road. Okay, in these neighborhoods. Lined right up. Looking for fucking illegals. This is supposed to be ICE federal agents, not the military, but they dress like the military, they look like the military, they're using military equipment, okay, and they're driving up and down the streets looking for people to kidnap and human traffic over to fucking El Salvador. That's what they're doing, okay? If that's not breaking a goddamn rule in this country about the powers of the president, I don't know what is. I really don't know what is. Okay, because we have laws in place for that sort of thing, and it doesn't require our own military being used in this fashion. Okay, yeah, technically it's not the military, but it's people dressed like they are in the military, and they are government workers, just like military is government workers. Okay, so what the hell is the difference, I ask you? You know? And I feel like, you know, there's got to be a whole, you know, a whole investigation here, not just about what's happening in California, but, you know, about all these other things that all these judges, these women judges, are out there bitching at Trump about doing. You know, are they just doing this because they want to be heard, or do they have legitimate cases? Okay, if people don't think they do, then why are so many of them coming up with all these rulings against him? Okay, surely there must be a judge out there somewhere that does, a female judge doesn't agree. Okay, but no, they don't agree with Trump. They didn't agree with Trump, and Beryl Howell's got a history of dealing with him in past cases. So she knows what kind of guy he is. Unfortunately, MAGA doesn't. You know, of all people, they should know better than her. But no, they don't. And the law firms that gave Trump free legal service, okay, last year and I think the year before, they ought to be charged with bribery, because that's what that is. All right? That's what that is. And I like I said, it's really shameful that, you know, we're where we are now with this guy. And I don't know how much worse it's going to get, but it can't get any better. Not while he's still president. And if you want things to get better, then you have to get rid of Trump as the president. That's the only way this is going to change, people. All the protests, okay, blowing up cars, you know, going after people that you know are MAGA, okay, that's only going to ratchet up the anger level in this country to explosive proportions. But it's not getting the root cause here, is it? You're wasting your time. Instead of going after the son of a bitch in charge, you're going after all the branches and leaves here, you know, and not the root cause. And that's where the axe of change will fall, is at the root. When you get to the root, that's when things will reverse. Until then, I mean, we're just pissing in the wind. I mean, they have I saw a picture someone had drawn, you know, of Trump pissing in front of a fan, and the fan's blowing the piss back at him, you know, the tariffs, okay, as an analogy. Well, for Democrats or the people opposed to Trump, they're doing the same thing, okay, because you're trying to piss on Trump and you're not doing it because it's going right back at you. And you need to stop screwing around in that fashion and go after him with what you have. That's, you know, the courts and the Congress, and get rid of him. Get rid of him. He's the reason that you're upset and that you're losing your financial stability, and your 401ks are drying up. And this is the reason. He's the reason that's happening. None of this would have happened if Kamala Harris was elected. We wouldn't be sitting here today bitching about this shit. Okay, everything would be fine and dandy. Okay, but nope, not with Trump. It's not ever going to happen. It won't be. No one's really going to end this. That's why I was saying, our Governor Mills. Yeah, we could celebrate this victory, but Trump ain't done. Okay, we still got 4 years more to go here, and Trump's going to have that much longer to continue his fight with the state of Maine and any other state that stands in his fucking way. Okay, this is not over. So don't rest on your laurels, okay? This is not the time for that. We only can when he's gone, when his administration is gone, and the damage that he's done is fixed somehow, okay? That's the only way things ever change. All right, so let's go to a commercial break. We'll be right back.
I'm Alex Curtis. I'm a lobsterman in Maine, and this is me.
I'm Roxy Sugar, and this is me.
I'm Eric Hopkins. I'm an artist, and this is me.
This is me.
Me.
This is me.
This is me.
At the end of the journey, the main thing is you, original.
How to use a pump to get bigger. Hi, I'm Clarissa from Our Doctor, and we're talking about pumps and the benefits of using male enlargement and enhancement vacuum pumps. The male enhancement pump is a very easy to use and effective medical grade device to help men achieve a fuller erection and reduce premature ejaculation. This digital and waterproof device can be issued without a doctor's prescription. How do you use one? It's quite easy. Simply insert your penis shaft into the pump tube, power it up, then choose your desired setting. You may feel a suction, which is a good thing. This is drawing blood into the penis vessels. This causes a swelling effect to give you temporary, more significant, and more complex erection results for up to 24 hours. Permanent results can be achieved with regular daily sessions just by using this pump. If you suffer from erectile dysfunction or are looking to increase your size, this pump is proven to work. Due to genetic or hormonal factors, men born with micropenis or a tiny penis should also consider this product. The reason why is because you have additional skin growth around your penis and it's buried. This condition is not uncommon. However, using a pump like this one or having an outpatient procedure done can resolve this issue. From the men who have used the pump, they'll say it's given them a quarter to a full inch in length after using it for about 5 to 10 minutes before their sexual encounter. Some men like to take either sildenafil or tadalafil in conjunction with this pump, so they can achieve even longer lasting results. If you have any questions about our products or services, you can check us out on our website or call us, and we have doctors and specialists that can answer any of your questions. Thanks for watching. Please like, follow, and subscribe, and post any questions you may have in the comments below. See you next time.
Some people have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country. And some people don't. People start pollution. People can stop it. Write for Pollution Booklet, Box 1771, Radio City Station, New York.
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it.
It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
Welcome back. All right, so for the second half of this video, I got a video from the Humanist Report, and apparently MAGA has unzipped their fucking fly to reveal who their MAGA small business supporters are on a new app. So let's take a look at this silly event here, and then we'll talk about that.
Thank you, Public Square, for making it so easy to find an adorable little French cafe to go on a date. We are so glad to support businesses that align with our values and that celebrate the freedom that America was built on.
What's up, kids? So I got some interesting information today. Apparently there is a website out there dedicated to MAGA small businesses. It's called publicsquare.com. Yes, all these MAGA businesses can sign up, and you can find all their locations on a map provided on the website. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? I think we take this information and use it in a different way. Like businesses not to shop at.
So even though conservatives have been putting us through hell on a daily basis in this country for decades now, I've got to admit that sometimes their stupidity can be a blessing in disguise. And I say that because they inadvertently handed people on the left a really nice gift without even realizing it. What do I mean? So anti-fascists are catching on to a tool that right-wingers have been using for years now to support supposed anti-woke businesses in their communities. But instead of creating a map of so-called woke businesses to avoid, the app in question compiled a database of pro-Trump businesses to support. But the app is not really being used in the way that its creators intended. So if you go to publicsquare.com, you can enter in your zip code and immediately see a list of pro-Trump businesses in your area. And you can effectively choose to avoid these businesses now that you know that they are pro-Trump. And this platform reportedly has more than 50,000 pro-Trump businesses in its database. So through word of mouth on TikTok, Reddit, Facebook, and Instagram, the app is gaining popularity among people on the left and also liberals because of how useful it is to them, because now they know which businesses support fascism and thus know which businesses they should avoid. And the app has blown up to the point where some businesses registered with Public Square are now publicly distancing themselves from the app, as explained by the Seattle TikToker.
So apparently a liberal newspaper a few days before I posted my video had called these businesses out by name that I also saw. And this is the Facebook post from Barolo, which is a restaurant downtown, saying, "Oh, no, we don't. We didn't. We definitely don't support this. We don't know how this happened." Look, here they are up here. It says, "This is not a MAGA supporting business." Cool. Wonderful. We love hearing it, right? Like, even if we scared you back into the woodwork, we love hearing it. But here's the thing. We went and we looked at the website. So you have to apply. You have to apply. So do this. So somebody went in there, put in information. We did not look at the application because we're not going to go in there and put in a bunch of information just to gather data for these people. But they have to go in and apply. So did you apply? Who applied? Who was it? Tell me! Essentially just refused to believe that this is just a disgruntled employee being like, I'm going to put you on a MAGA serving website to get back at you somehow. However, it would be smart. But don't do it. That's bad.
So their response is basically, oh, gee golly, we have no idea how we ended up on this MAGA supporting website. We're not Trump supporters. That's not us. But that's not true. They're lying because, as he explained, you have to register your business to get on Public Square, and Public Square vets the companies that apply to ensure that these companies align with and adhere to their conservative principles. So while it's possible that a disgruntled employee could theoretically register their owner's business to burn their boss, there seemingly has to be specific criteria that needs to be met in order to make it on Public Square's database. As HuffPost explains, its website, which bills itself as the anti-woke online marketplace, is a hub of tens of thousands of businesses nationwide that want people to know they align with MAGA views and oppose so-called progressive priorities like women's reproductive rights and diversity initiatives. In order to list your business on the website, you first have to confirm that you will respect the core values of Public Square and agree to not support causes that are in direct conflict with our core values. Now, I'm not privy to the ways that they gauge how conservative a company is, but HuffPost spoke to a man using Jeff as a pseudonym who found out about Public Square from a bank that he worked at in California, whose lenders were huge MAGA chuds, and they instructed him to try to get their bank on Public Square. And through that, Jeff learned about the process, and while he doesn't know if the bank ever managed to make it on their database, he says that the businesses who are on Public Square are not there by accident. If they're there on purpose. And the reason why they won't just allow anyone on the app is because its owners are actual Trump Kool-Aid drinkers. The Stranger reports, Public Square was started up in San Diego in 2021 by Michael Seifert, hardcore Christian fundamentalist and alum of the sometimes accredited Liberty University, that's the one founded by Jerry Falwell, as a right-wing values-driven alternative to Amazon. Now, HuffPost adds, the company, which officially launched in 2022, has direct connections to Trump too. Its board of directors includes Donald Trump Jr., who is also an investor. Kelly Loeffler, President Trump's administrator of the Small Business Administration, also was on the board until she was confirmed to her current post in February. So we're talking about some of the biggest names in the Chudoverse. the MAGA cinematic universe. So, I mean, if a business has their blessing, I think it's safe to say that it's not a fluke, which is going to be something to look out for, because now that more people are using the app to boycott, more businesses are going to become a little bit savvier and feign ignorance once they start to lose money, or to stop themselves from losing money. But just know that they're lying. But I mean, these businesses won't be the only ones losing money due to a boycott, because according to HuffPost, Public Square makes commission off of transactions at these businesses, assuming that they sell their merchandise through their online store. So if the app becomes big enough and enough of the companies in their registry are boycotted, they lose money too. Public Square directly loses money because of these boycotts. And I'd love to be a fly on the wall in their boardroom meetings now, because now that the word is out about the usefulness of this app to anti-fascists, they've got to be panicking. I mean, if you search Public Square on Reddit, there's so many posts about it in different subreddits for cities and states, including Alaska, Portland, Denver, Nashville, Bend, Charlottesville, Cleveland. It's also mentioned in a lot of liberal and left-leaning subreddits like 5051, Leopards Ate My Face, and even the Joe Rogan subreddit, which is basically been taken over by ex-fans who don't like his right-wing pivot. And on the App Store, the glowing reviews are mostly coming from anti-fascists. At least the more recent reviews are. For example, this person gave it a 5-star review, writing, "I love how simple and easy this app is to use to find local businesses that I and all of my companions need to boycott. I've already found a handful of businesses I wouldn't have expected that I now will never go to again. I can't say anything for the store functionality of this app because I will never ever use it." This person gives it 5 stars as well, saying, "Great app that is easy to find out what businesses support kidnapping citizens to concentration camps, cutting cancer research, destroying the economy, pushing disinformation, and cutting social services for people who pay for them out of their taxes. Thank you for helping us spread awareness to avoid these corrupt, disgraceful businesses pushed by our malignant authoritarian regime." So needless to say, if the app continues to grow for this specific reason, it could become a victim of its own success, ironically, because even though people are using it, they're using it in a way that will lead to its inevitable demise at some point if this continues. Because if these businesses no longer want to be associated with this app and they pull their products off of their store, I mean, then Public Square loses commission and the app itself goes bye-bye. But I hope it does stay open for a little bit while longer, at least, because it's actually very useful. And I'm happy to find out about all the fascist businesses in my community. I'm not necessarily surprised by how many they are. Nonetheless, they're there, and I will be avoiding them thanks to this app. Thanks, Public Square. But I mean, I want to share one more TikTok from the user who helped to spread the word about Public Square. He's going to explain how this isn't necessarily a new phenomenon, specifically the tactic that conservatives are pulling off.
Public Square is basically the Green Book, but for conservatives. The Green Book was a book passed around black communities that was a list of stores and businesses that were safe for black people to use. Public Square is the same thing for conservatives. It is a website that conservatives will register their business on to show that they are anti-woke, pro-conservative, and especially pro-life. If you're like me, you'll search that and find that there are local businesses in your community that you will never shop at again. I just found out that the game store that I've been attending weekly for the past decade is a registered business on Public Square. Stay woke and be aware of the Public Square.
So to give you some additional context, the Green Book was used during Jim Crow to help black Americans avoid racist businesses when they traveled, because they needed to know where it was safe to get gas and groceries when they left their town, so that way they wouldn't unnecessarily put their families in harm's way. It was a necessity because of racism. But as that TikToker explained, conservatives created their own version of Green Book as if they're victims, when in actuality, they are the victimizers. And if they were alive during Jim Crow, black Americans would need a Green Book to avoid people like them who think they need their own Green Book. So it's especially gross that conservatives are appropriating a piece of black history to profit off of their victim complex. But hey, it goes both ways, right? So if they're going to appropriate black history, we can appropriate their appropriation and weaponize it against them. So in the end, I would encourage you to use Public Square, because I think you might be surprised, or maybe not, with how many businesses in your community are paying fealty to a fascist cult leader. With that being said, if you are going to use this app or the website, reject their cookies and don't let the app track your location. I think the safest way to do it is to use a private browser or browse in incognito mode. Just don't let them track your shit. Either way, look, knowledge is power, and if fascists are giving us a free tool to boycott them, I think it'd be rude to not accept the gift that they're giving us. So have fun.
Oh, this is so rich. I'll tell you, this is like sex offenders proudly registering on the sex offender list and making it known to the public they are on it. Okay, this is the same thing. All right, it's like putting up a sign over their business. We are fascists. Okay, how stupid can you possibly be to publicly declare yourself MAGA and own a business and then expect nobody to push back on you? Okay, isn't that, I mean, this is, remember, I was thinking of that, the first thing that came to mind was those, that bakery there, the two women that had a bakery, and a gay couple wanted to have a wedding cake made, and she told them no, okay, and they had a big stink about that. Clearly, they're Republicans or conservatives, they're probably MAGA, all right, but this is what they were, this is what happened, and, all hell broke loose, and you would think that they would have learned something about that, not to reveal yourselves to your customer base, because they're going to retaliate if they're not in in your column. Basically, if they're not supporting you, they're not going to fucking want anything to do with you. Now, if she had put up on her store that certain customers only, I think it would have been obvious then who the business owners were, and they never would have went there in the first place. But she didn't do that, and so people go in there and they find out, oh, she's a racist, or oh, she's a phobia, or oh, she's this, or oh, she's that. Why don't you just tell people up front? I mean, if you're going to do this online in an app to make it known who you are, then why don't you just put on your fucking business windows and stuff that you do not serve anyone who doesn't support Trump? Just put it out there so everybody can tell. Everybody knows. All right? Don't be evasive about it. Don't be secretive about it, because it's going to come out the minute you open your mouth when somebody goes in there, okay, and you say something. So you might just as well get a great big fucking piece of duct tape or something like that and write on that and stick it to your door that you are a MAGA, okay? Just put that in there. It makes it so much easier for everybody else not to go do business with you. I mean, I really think that's, it's about the same thing as, when people, who still drive around with their vehicles with bumper stickers that voted for Trump. Okay, you're just begging for something to happen. Okay, because the anger level in this country against Trump is rising exponentially every fucking week. Okay, and at some point, people are going to get flipping fucking mad, and if they see the name Trump anywhere stapled to someone's vehicle or onto some business, they're going to get attacked. Okay, just like with Tesla. All right, it's going to get that bad. So it isn't. It wasn't just about Musk that brought Tesla down. It was about the things Musk stood for, the same things Trump stands for. Okay, and once Musk is out of the picture, who's the person they're going to direct their anger at next? Okay, it's going to be Trump and anyone who supports that son of a bitch. Okay, and that's where we're coming to in this country. So if you, like I said to people on here before, if you're wearing one of those goddamn MAGA red hats, you better fucking lose it, because you're going to find out that some people out there are angrier than you. Okay, you might be angry because that's why you voted for Trump, but guess what? Now you've ratcheted up the anger level on the other side, and now they're more angry than you are now. And so they're going to take it out on anything that symbolizes that son of a bitch. Okay, that's what's going to happen. And Elon, well, he discovered how much of a two-edged sword it is to be using your business for political purposes, okay? He's just like that lady with the bakery, okay? Same thing. When are you guys going to learn? But in this instance, a lot of the Democrats are taking advantage of this nice little app here from Public Square, and they are making copies, screenshots, you know, and sending that all around. And guess what? Not only are people going to avoid those businesses, but some people are going to use those as target lists. Okay? Some of these places are going to get vandalized. You know, there's going to be shit that'll happen. And, you know, this is how stupid it was for them to make this thing and put that up there. I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, you know, sure, nobody thinks that, oh, well, we're trying to make a club. Yeah. Trying to make a club, right? Yeah. You're going to see what a club looks like. But, you know, they get so insulted when they're accused of not being woke, okay? Well, you know, there's something to be said when a person has no empathy or isn't enlightened in any fucking way in today's world. And that's part of the reason why so many people hate MAGA, is because they don't like that. They don't like being empathetic. They don't like being enlightened. They don't like anybody telling them that what they're doing is wrong, okay? I mean, we make fun every day about Karens, okay? The Karens out there. And that name still it covers men too, okay? There's men that are called Karens, okay? But there's, you know, people go around and they call others Karens. Well, MAGA is probably the biggest Karen of all. Seriously. Because they feel entitled to everything. They feel like they own everything. They own you. Okay? They own your right to stay in this country or not. These people are the biggest fucking Karens in this country. It ain't just, you know, this person or that person. No, we got a fucking national club of Karens called MAGA. Because that's what they are. And all they do is complain about other people getting something they're not getting. Okay? That's why they don't like people getting Social Security. They don't like people getting veterans benefits. They don't like people getting any of these other things that people need in their life. Social Security and Medicaid and all that stuff. They don't like that. Okay? If they're not getting it, they don't want other people to get it. Karens. Okay? When they get pulled over for speeding, they get bitchy. They feel like, oh, why are you picking on me when there's so many other crimes out there happening? And you know who they're talking about, okay? Karens. All right? This is what they are. These people bitch and complain that the world is so unfair, that they, you know, they can't get anywhere in life, okay, because somebody else, someone with color on their skin, got a job that they wanted. I mean, that pisses them off more than anything. They don't want merit-based hiring and stuff like that. They want whites only getting hired and everybody else gets the shit. That's what they want. Karens. That's what they are. And, you know, there's even that attitude, you know, out there amongst people who, they're not very wealthy. They have no money practically at all. Some of them are homeless even, and they have that attitude. So, you have to wonder, is a person who has this attitude, being Karen-esque, does that indicate they have some sort of a mental handicap that maybe they don't even realize, because they never bother to get diagnosed with anything, okay? I don't know. It's a good question to ask. I mean, that kind of goes right back to that argument that always goes around, are Republicans mentally handicapped? Why do they think so differently from everybody else? You know, what is wrong with these people? How can they think the way they do that's so wrong and they think it's right? You know, that's a debate. You know, some people say that there is a mental lapse somewhere doing, you know, that creates this kind of a personality. I don't know. But if there is an element there of people being unhinged and having to be a result of them turning into an extremist Republican, then maybe that's a disease that needs to be treated. Okay? Maybe, you know, I don't know, some Zoloft or some fucking thing, put them on that. That might fucking make them more likable, make them more acceptable, make them think more with empathy and compassion. Who knows? That could turn someone's life around, okay? But I think it's the same kind of argument that some people make, that people that commit murders could be treated and not be murderers again. You know, and would we continue to keep these murderers locked up even though they've been rehabilitated? You know, and is rehabilitation even something you would want to try for a guy who was a murderer, or a woman who's a murderer? Okay, you know what I'm saying? I mean, there's a lot there. There's a lot there, but we refuse to even cogitate on things like that in this society because it hits at the home of our roots of being judgmental. Okay, that's what it is. It hits a chord with us that we don't feel comfortable listening to, and so we allow this fucking moronic parts of our society to continue to exist without really trying to change what is. We don't make any big effort to try to change things. Okay, and that's the reason why I think, you know, a society that doesn't want to change for the better, whether it's a democrat society, a democracy, or whatever the fuck society, you name it, whatever, okay? No society can function if those people in that society refuse to change, okay? Period. I don't care what you're living in. If it's a communist dictatorship, okay, or you're living on Mars or some fucking thing, if you're in a society where people just refuse to try to enhance their themselves or to evolve, okay, then your society is doomed, to fail, and that's what we've done. Okay, a big reason why Trump is in the White House and in the situation that's happening is because we didn't evolve from our mistakes. We brought those into the voting booth last year. Our fucking bigotry, our racism, our misogyny. Okay, we brought all that in there with us when we voted. And this is the end result. A society that can't change stays stagnant, and we're stagnant. We're still dealing with and wrestling with issues that should have been resolved decades ago. For Christ's sake, decades ago. And we still wrestle with that because we don't impart those mistakes we made onto our children so they won't make those same mistakes. Do you realize where this country could be today if we learn from our mistakes? We'd already have set foot on Mars. We'd have world peace, okay? We would put aside our goddamn stigmas against things, against sexuality. We would put all that stuff would be put aside. It would be deemed irrelevant to the larger goal, which is man evolving into something greater than what it is, which is what this country was founded on. We cannot do that if we're oppressing ourselves with bullshit ideologies. You understand? That's how it is. And if we stop the struggle to get out of the fucking muck of where we came from, then you might as well just stay in the muck. Why bother with a democracy? Why bother with anything? Just live in a world of fucking chaos, okay, until we extinguish ourselves. Why try? Because that's what MAGA represents, the lack of effort to try. They don't want to take those steps to be better. They want to stay in the past, in their little homes, okay, and living like they did in the 1900s, okay? This is all they want. For them, this is good. This is the golden age for them. Those years, the 18th and 19th century. To them, that's great. Those are the great times. They don't want to evolve and be better than that. Okay? They have chosen, through this election, the last election here, with Trump, that they refuse to go any further. Okay? They don't want their kids to do better. They don't want society to do any better. They want us to fall by the wayside and let the rest of the world march on ahead of us. They're quitters. They fucking gave up. And, how does giving up solve any of their fucking problems that they have, that they claim are so important to them? Okay? How does giving up help that any? You know, to give up means you have to accept certain trains of thought. You know, that women can't have their own voice in this country. In their minds, that was the beginning of the end of America, is when a woman could vote. Okay? You see what I'm saying about regressing? Because they want to go back. They think all the steps we took after that were for nothing, that it didn't help anything, okay? Because it interfered with their beliefs and all that and whatever the hell else they got, okay? They didn't like it. They fucking didn't like it. And so they refused to march any further. And they were going to stop us, the rest of us, from marching further. It's like, no, we're not going to let you get any better and make this country any better. We want the whole country to suffer, okay? Arrogance, Karens, you know, the hubris of them thinking for you, to tell you where the bear shits in the woods, to tell you you can't have this or you can't have that, okay? To deny you your right to go and get health care, for them to deny you a fucking retirement. Karens, they feel entitled. They feel they should have all those things. Okay? You just can't reason with these blockheads. Really, you can't. You just can't. I refuse to debate them anymore now. Whenever any of these fucking people comment or something like that, I ignore it. Because if it's true, if they do have a mental handicap, it would be like trying to make a person with, I don't know, somebody that's untreated, that's got, serious depression, and they always have to take medicine to keep themselves from falling into suicide. Okay, it would be like trying to undo that with words. You can't. You just can't. You can't talk them out of it. They have to take their medication. Okay? They have to take their medication, because they won't, as long as they're feeling the way they're feeling, hearing somebody talk to them and everything, it just doesn't seem to work unless you couple the therapy with the medication. All right? So that's what it's like for me to talk to MAGA, is that these people need help. They need medication. I can't talk to them because they're not listening. They're just thinking about themselves. They're being selfish while I'm trying to talk to them, and they're not listening. They're not hearing me, okay? And so if I can't get them to understand just a little bit of what I'm saying, then why waste time and make a mission of it, okay? Why do this? It'd be like trying to push the moon out of orbit. I mean, you can't do it. I don't really know what to say to anybody that thinks differently on this, okay? If you think you can do it, by all means, beat your head up against the wall. I don't care. But I've given up on that. I really have. I mean, I think that a lot of people out there with good intentions want to see people getting along and stuff like that. It's not going to happen when you have people like MAGA who are so opposite of you and so rooted in what they believe in, that it's not enough that they believe in this stuff, but they want you to believe what they believe. And if you don't, they think you're crazy and they attack you for it. They create the very world that they hate by their own goddamn beliefs. They create the misery that circulates around them just by being what they are. And until they stop that, they're never really going to know anybody. Okay? They can't. How can they possibly get along with people if they're going to be so racist and bigoted and have all these phobias here about people? Okay, why do they expect that things are going to go their way? Even a 2-year-old will understand when they're doing something pisses somebody off, they're going to stop doing it. But somewhere along the way, these Karens went through life where nobody said anything about their bad behavior, and they just felt like, oh, well, I can just keep doing it. And they carried this on into adulthood, and now they go through life with that crazy-ass bullshit attitude of theirs. I just, it's sad, but that's where we are. And, if we don't change the way our society is now, we're going to end up with more Trumps in the future. Okay, we're going to end up with more of that. It's not going to stop. So, you know, I know today they were talking about people trying to have vacations in America, but are canceling them because they don't like what America's doing to itself. They don't like Trump. They don't like the tariffs. They don't like a lot of things are going on right now about this country. So they don't feel like they should come here. Okay, and that shows a level of maturity that the rest of the world has that we're lacking here in America. That they can recognize we're taking the wrong path, and they don't want anything to do with it. They don't want to put their nuts on the line coming over here and then getting picked up by ICE and sent somewhere, you know, mistakenly, because hey, they've done that before. You know, so why should they come over here? All right, you know what I'm saying? I can't blame these people. I really can't. It's sad, but it's the truth, and you can't deny it. No matter what MAGA wants to think about it, they created it, and now they're going to have to understand, you know, what that means. You know, when elections have consequences. All right, so let's call it a night here, and I hope everybody has a great rest of the week. So subscribe, comment, and share, and keep your ears open for health issues out there. There's stuff out there you may not be hearing much about it, but it's going on. And you know, in your neighborhoods, be helpful to each other. All right, be helpful to one another. You know, because in days to come, really soon, that may be your only avenue for help. So think about that. I'll talk to you guys later. Take care. Bye-bye.